So I decided to sit down with a computer and find solutions myself.
Well, you know, you said this is your second career, and I want to tell folks a little bit about you. You were born in Brooklyn, New York in 1947, and
Right.
then you went to MIT as a rocket scientist. You had a BS in aeronautics and astronautics from MIT.
That's
That
right.
is fascinating. Then you worked for your family's soft drink bottling company after that. So you have a research mentality, don't you?
Yeah, I've learned something for every career I was in.
Tell me a little bit about the 17 years into that career as a bottler, working in a bottling plant and working behind the scenes. And
In the war in the winter. So we ended up in San Diego for many years, and then war in the winter. So we ended up in San Diego for many years, and then finally here in Tucson.
And so you were in the financial planning career. There's a lot of us out here, and you were.
And withdraw at a rate which guaranteed 30 years based on anything that's happened in the last 100 years.
That and
I'm
so
sorry.
you tested those back in the 90s, and what surprised you most when you were doing this research on the 4% rule?
Well, I was surprised at first when I looked at the asset allocation.
So many stocks, and people needed.
Quality funds, there are plenty of those. Most of them are index funds at very low cost. So that quality funds, there are plenty of those. Most of them are index funds at very low cost, so that they are easy to swallow. You know, you're not dealing with.
Right.
They are easy to swallow. You know, you're not dealing with
Right.
friction, commissions and so forth.
Yes.
So it can be done. Commissions and so forth.
Yes.
So it can be done. I had seen nothing in history that indicates anything less than 4.7%, which is 4.7%, which is the new number, my updated number. And to get below it, stocks are very highly valued and stocks are very highly valued and very concentrated in a few names. So that not always doesn't end well.
Now, you said you've been quoted that the 4% rule was never meant to be a law, more of a process. How should people use it today without locking themselves into a rigid number, I guess we say?
Yeah, I've identified in my book what I call 8 elements, which are basically assumptions that you.
And he is a founder, of the 4% rule. And Bill, for retirees worried about inflation today, what's the best way to protect their spending power long term?
Well, that's a real concern.
Bill, I had a client about 20. His friend was putting pressure on him to start spending it because he said, if you don't spend it, your kids.
System that the rule is based
above that. What
that the rule is based
above that what it was. Okay, and even in what can read above that what it was. Okay, and even in what can readers expect, and how can they learn more about your latest research as well?
Sure. Sure. Well, my book is basically designed like a cookbook. Sure. Well, my book is basically designed like a cookbook where people's own situation in terms of the 8 elements, then possibly use that as a template for their own retirement plan.
You know, a lot of times I'll sit down with a couple, and one of the two in this couple will be very risk adverse, and the other one will be a very big heard about because critics have said that 4% rule is obsolete after the 2021 to 2023 inflation shock. Is that fair, or is that fear, Margaret? Margaret, that are saying that?
No, it seems to address.
Today they say, try to buy a falling stock was like trying to catch a falling knife.
Yeah.
And that is true on some of these penny stocks that go down, but for the traditional 4% rule. Bill, thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And folks, we'll be right back after this.
More people will be going towards a life insurance way because I own the traditional long-term care and it's a great product. So I'm going to benefits. I got a good one before. I own the traditional long-term care and it's a great product. So I'm going to benefits. I got a good one before.
You've seen us talk about it on our video series and TV shows, but we like doing real world examples. So we have a lot of people ask us, can you run the numbers for us? And they're even comfortable with us using them here on the board for you. This is a real study from a radio listener that came in, and we're not looking at the comp. Of course, Of course, with layover, overlap, this is going to be closer to 64. Now, they had about 1.4 million in retirement in standard of living. We want to make sure we're able to maintain the income they need. When we ran the numbers based on what they have and we backsourced it, that put us at around 560,000 for their plan, and that's what I'm going to use here in this example. 560,000 with an A+ rated company. Death, we normally do spreadsheets and 30-year models, but in this scenario, let's go a little farther because people are living longer. Let's go to age 97. That income received worst case scenario is going to be $60,000 a year. Now, that's off of the 560,000 number. Positive.